it's been a life-changing journey. And you will hear that time and time and time again with people's feedback after they've been on an overland trip. And it's not just the people at the accommodations or your guides, but it's if you're stopping along the way and the school kids are coming out of school and they're waving at you as you're going by, or you stopping at a gas station or a rest stop or whatever, and you have a chat there to guys, where are you from? And people talk about the friendliness of the African people. And I think, where our clients come from, and I know I'm generalizing, but I feel that there's a disconnect in that human interaction that they then come and find when they come to Africa and when they go on the journey. And I think that is what stays with them. And that is why we get the kind of feedback that you just read about, because it impacts people in such a dramatic way.
Welcome everyone to our webinar. Thank you so much for joining. We are still waiting on John to join, but that's fine. We will give him some time to join us. Let me introduce you to our amazing consultants who are with us today, who have also been on Sunway tours, so they understand what it's like to be on a Sunway tour, and they're going to take us through that today. First, we have Ingrid, who is a lovely, lovely ball of sunshine. She used to be a guide as well. And don't let the looks deceive you. She is very tall and very fun. And then we've got Banal. She is also another ball of sunshine. All of us are really balls of sunshine. And she has lots of advice to give us. Super helpful no matter what you need. And then we've got the lovely Miss Celia. Thank you so much for joining us, Celia. I know you've had a busy morning. So thank you for taking the time today. And I'm so excited to have everybody here today. How's everybody feeling?
Good.
Excited. Yeah, very good.
Great. Just to kick off, I just wanted to check with you guys how you felt on each of your tours. Each of you obviously saw very similar things. So Celia, you just did Namibia. Ingrid, you did Vic Falls, etc. We loved your picture where you're standing at Vic Falls, taking in the rainbow. And Banal, you also did a Sunway tour recently. What was that like, jumping on a truck and with a bunch of new people and just experiencing Africa in a different light?
For me, it was super exciting. I I love going anywhere all the time. So it was just, that excitement of, I guess stepping away from your desk or your life as it is with our travelers that come out to Africa. It's just removing yourself from your normal environment and just getting on that adventure and just going with it. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, same. I agree. It was a bit, I can almost say a little bit scary and intimidating going into a group, when you don't know the people, and it's a bit odd and weird the first little while, but very quickly you kind of, you get to know each other. But it's such a lovely trip at Sunway specifically. Love their guides, their vehicles, and Namibia is, absolutely incredible. Takes your breath away. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, no, obviously the same for me. Well, yeah, I love, my personal favorite is Vic Falls. So when I went to Vic Falls, I was like, yay, I can see it again. And obviously, the other stuff like Matopos and Awangi was like definitely highlights. And it's always nice to go and see it. And, especially traveling on the overland trips that we sell every day, going there again is fantastic. It's really nice.
That sounds amazing. I'm sure you all have a very vivid picture of everything that you've seen, and you can take as many pictures as you want with your phone, but sometimes you just end up leaving with a very vivid picture that sticks in your mind. And like they say, take only pictures and leave your footprints. That's fine. But what type of, if you had to picture or describe your tour and paint a picture for somebody, how would you describe it?
Oh, the solitude was so beautiful. Namibia has these wide open spaces. It's also very different than other African countries. I think the experience is very unique, from going sort of from the bushveld and your more sort of run-of-the-mill safari destinations. And then having lived in Uganda, which is very tropical, getting to Namibia where it's sparse and it's desolate, but there's so much life. It's incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so obviously with me, well, I think with all of us, it was more of like a educational trip. So it wasn't one of Sunway's, trips that you'll find online. But I think for me, well, tying in with what Ingrid says, I think I've been to Victoria Falls 3 or 4 times already. And every single time it's goosebumps. It's as if you see it and experience it for the very first time. The sunset on the salt pans, Makgadikgadi salt pans, and it just feels like you're the only people on earth as you're sitting there, was magical. The highlight for me, and I think for me personally, I always try going into an experience with zero expectations. I know it's difficult because I think that's just the way us humans are, but I just try to go into it with zero expectations. But Matopos was such a highlight. I think sometimes you read about something and it's like, okay, it sounds great, but then you get there and it's like the views. I don't know how to explain it, like climbing up this huge hill and just looking at all these rock formations from the very top. And I don't know, Celia was talking about the solitude of Namibia, which I absolutely agree with, but there's such vastness to it that, yes, you are with a group of people, but you can go and stand off at a viewpoint on your own, and you just feel like, I don't know, it's just this overwhelming, I think sometimes, and I think this is with all of Africa, it's that overwhelming feeling of, sometimes we think we are as humans so the be all and the end all, but then you get to places like Namibia or standing at these viewpoints and you just realize, wow, it's so much bigger than what we are. It was just incredible. The rhino experience, I think maybe because Ingrid also did something similar, so I don't want to talk about all of it, so maybe Ingrid can because I can just keep going.
I agree with Vanel on that. It makes it feel small. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think
it's
no matter
everything
where you go. Yeah, for sure. No matter where you go, you kind of see how much little space you actually take up. Like you're standing in these vast plains, you're standing in a big forest looking for gorillas. You're really, really small as compared to what's around you. So, and I think that's the importance of Africa. Like you will see so many things, but it will almost like humble you, but in the best way possible, not in like an embarrassing type of way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. I just wanted to also touch on, being I think John has joined us.
Yeah, how's
Hi, John. How are you?
John.
Sorry, the broadcast started a little bit early, but that's fine. You didn't really miss much. We were just chatting to the consultants about their experiences on their tours, what were their highlights, etc. For everybody who has not known John yet, John is the marketing manager at Sunway Safaris, and he is here to share, obviously, being a partner with African Overland Tours and Sunway Safaris, we love your product, obviously, and we try to sell it as much as possible to our clients. And the best thing is that you give the opportunity to consultants like ours to see your product and experience it for themselves, so that they are then able to share that with their clients. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, how are you doing, John?
Oh, good. At least we're getting a bit of sun in Johannesburg today. We had quite a lot of rain over the last couple of weeks, which is lovely. But we do need a bit of sun every now and again.
John, if you could please just touch on, what it's like being partners with African Overland Tours and what it's like working with our team. Because, I think that our team is amazing, but I'm sure you have your own thoughts.
It's a great experience overall. Obviously, I've been lucky enough to meet some of your consultants along the way. Benal, we met in 2023, it's a couple of years ago now, traveling through Zimbabwe. Celia, you came with me last year up through Namibia, and then I think, and then Jade. Jade led the one at the end of last year as well. So it's been lovely to get to know people on like a personal level as well, across the board, as opposed to kind of just on email. So we encourage obviously that relationship side of things as much as possible from our side, as we find it like super important between us and our agents that there's got to be a relationship point and an understanding between each other, just to help the relationship grow. It's obviously from a trust perspective, it's just so vital at the end of the day. And getting to know people on a personal level is just, pretty much what we do at the end of the day. If you go on tour with our guides and things like that, everything's done on a personal level at that point. It's all about community. It's all about kind of getting to know one another and getting to know and meet new people at the end of the day. And that's what a lot of what small group touring is actually about at the end of the day. Getting integrated into a group of 12 people. A lot of the time, that group of 12 doesn't actually know each other at all when they start the tour. But by the end of the tour, they're a small family, and obviously they're all excited. And we like to treat our consultants and obviously our agencies as part of the Sunway family as much as possible as well. So working with everyone, it's more like trying to extend the family as much as possible, and then obviously use our family members' reach to reach the clients and get the clients onto the tours themselves as well. So from a reach perspective, it's really important for us. Sunway Safaris doesn't sell direct to the public, particularly in countries where we have existing agent bases, and we've kind of made that decision based on what our consultants or agencies can actually leverage in terms of their knowledge of specific markets. So Sunway at the end of the day can focus on producing optimal tours and efficient tours and the best tours that we can possibly produce, whereas our agents are spending a lot of time doing the actual ground marketing and trying to reach as many people as possible, and that's kind of how we work together, in a nutshell.
I think it's a beautiful symbiotic relationship between companies where you do really well what you do on the ground, and we do really well what we do preparing clients and matching clients up with the right tours. And so yeah, it's wonderful working with Sunways.
It's that matching the clients with the right tour that's so important at the end of the day, and that's an acquired skill. It's not everyone that can do that, to look at a client and say, okay, cool, well, this client will fit an under canvas camping, or this client will fit an accommodated or a classic tour at the end of the day. Matching those correct tours and managing expectation at the end of the day is so important. And that's why using this kind of relationship and this, this bond that we have between each other and a great level of understanding of the products and everyone else, it really, really does help produce quality tours at the end of the day, because clients arrive, they know what to expect. It's the right tour for them. They're really excited to kind of get involved in the adventure itself as well. So it's just so important for us to have these kinds of partnerships in place.
Definitely agree. I mean, it's also really, it's a real testament to show what, the consultants actually do know and how they're able to take the knowledge that they've gained over many, many years to pair their clients with the right tour for them. I mean, I'm sure it could be the worst thing possible to have a client who thinks that they could manage under canvas camping, and then they end up on a tour and they're like, I don't want to sleep in a tent, and those are also things that at the end of the day, I know the consultant will not be on tour with that client, but then your guide is going to be on tour with that client, and your guide is then going to have to manage those expectations and handle the client in a way where you're managing so many different things. They're managing their food, they're managing the routes, they're managing their paperwork. Now they're managing maybe a disgruntled client. And that's where I think this partnership also comes in really handy, is it's now, the client who needs to chat to the consultant and will then also get feedback from the operator, which is, Sunway. So again, having that good relationship between us, it really helps in every aspect possible.
Mishka, can I just jump in? Can I just jump in there? Also, another very important thing, being an ex-guide, and I'm sure Ingrid also dealt with this, when clients are not well prepared for a tour, like you just mentioned, if someone doesn't know that they're doing camping, I had that a few times where a client would arrive for a 42 or a 45-day tour, and I'd be like, right, and we're going to stop on the first night, I'm going to show you how to put up your tent, and they go, oh, what now? And you're like, you booked a camping trip, ma'am. and so also another thing that's really good is that from our experiences, as a lot of us as ex-guides, preparing our clients in the right way for what to expect is it's an important aspect of what we do.
Yeah, if I can also just add something there, it's as a consultant working with operators, it really goes a long way if you can trust the operator, and know what to expect, and you've built a relationship through the years. So it helps a lot, and it's really appreciated to put a client on a tour and they're gonna be in good hands. They're gonna go, and most of the time, depending on the client, but you're sort of assured that they're gonna have a good time. They're going to see the places, interesting places. They're going to, have good food. They're going to have good guides, and for us as consultants, that is like sort of a peace of mind. When they go on a Sunway trip, they're going to be looked after.
That's lovely feedback. Yeah, I really appreciate that, Ingrid. That's quite interesting to know. Last year we did a quick assessment of we transported about over 3,500 clients in 2024 across Southern Africa. And in terms of the feedback we received, about it's over 85% of all clients commented that they thoroughly enjoyed the tour, which we feel is a really good win, which is a really good rating. If you look at, and this is now from a feedback perspective, so every client that travels on Sunway Tours, they fill in a feedback form at the end of the trip. The consultants would have filled in the same thing as well when they did the tour with me. And if you look at it from a review perspective, you look at TripAdvisor, you look at Google reviews and things like that. These are the people that have either had a really great time or they've had a really poor time. Those are the type of people that you're going to see on a Google review. But if you take the thousands of people that are in between those people as well, and then you kind of include that in your data as well, it provides a really clear statistic of how many people are actually enjoying the trip itself. So we're quite proud of that above 85%. That's good. Obviously, we'd love to be at 100%, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be little niggles here and there. Traveling with that amount of people at the end of the day, but we're really happy with that amount of people, and it really makes Sunway as a company, or as us as passionate people about Africa and Southern Africa, to know that people have come, they've experienced Southern Africa, and that they've really enjoyed their experience within Southern Africa itself.
Of course, yeah. And having those reviews, it not only boosts your overall rating, but at the end of the day, I've always said that people experience things through other people, other people. Like, you're only going to experience something based on what you see is a good review of sorts. But it also, again, comes back to managing clients' expectations and understanding what they really, really want. Like, you may have somebody who wants to spend less time on the truck, but how do you then deal with that? As consultants yourselves, how do you deal with somebody who says that they want certain things and then, manage the expectations in a way that guides them in the right direction?
I think something that we have implemented of late is, and I think this helps with that connection with clients, is we don't just deal with clients on email. We phone clients, we have video calls with clients. And I think that really helps you to talk through all the expectations that clients have. It's difficult sometimes to put it down in an email, but when you're talking to a client, especially, when you've been on a tour, they can, you can really go into detail with regards to the long days, because let's face it, they are going to be long days. But, going hand in hand with that, you can say to people, but, those are the times that you sit and you get to know your fellow travelers, you getting to know the people that you're going to spend the next 12 days with, or 10 days or 14 days, whatever it might be. And also people, they see the excitement that we have. They hear the excitement that we have, because we're passionate about the continent. We've been on the Sunway tour. And so you can kind of, you can talk through all the expectations. You can detail, if somebody says, but I don't really want to spend so much time on a truck. Honestly, sometimes you also have to say to somebody, then I don't think overlanding is the kind of adventure for you, because there's no other way around it. You either go with that adventure and, you spending, I don't know, sometimes 4, 5, 6 hours on the truck. And that's also not, you stopping, you having conversations with your guide, you're getting off to spread your, stretch, not spread people. So I think the way that we communicate with clients, the means that we are using, also helps in setting the tone of.
Yeah, and Benal, if I can also interject, I think addressing concerns with clarity, with transparency and honesty. I think if a client is concerned about something, being very honest, or I'm brutally honest with people, and I say this is exactly what you can expect, and I agree with Benal. Sometimes an overland trip isn't the right thing for the person inquiring, and if it doesn't, then by all means, then we'll point you in the direction to find something else. But transparency and honesty, I think, is the best way to just address those concerns and objections.
I mean, you actually had a really lovely comment about you, Celia. Claudia Haim is also in this webinar as an attendee, and she's all the way from Austria. And she said, Celia very often talked to me face to face, and it helped me a lot. Thank you so much for this. And I think that is it is a key difference that we make. I mean, our manager Jess really drills it into the team. Get on the phone, get on a video call, give him a call, even if it's a WhatsApp. And we've really seen a major difference in the type of happy clients that we see nowadays. You see it in their review, you see it in the way that they chat to you. These people start forming relationships with you. It's not just, a give and take situation where, you're making a sale now. Huntley, for example, one of our consultants, is friends with a guy who's been on tour for in the past 10 years. And they still chat every time he comes to South Africa. They still meet up for a beer. And I think that is a real testament to what this type of community does. Overlanding creates this type of community, that group travel, that sense of being, that sense of camaraderie. I mean, I went on tour in December, and I'm still chatting to the people that I met on my first tour, and I'm not a people's person. It made me and if everybody could just touch on that camaraderie that you see in overland tours, because there's so many times where I've heard, like, from consultants or even people who I've met on my own tour that said, I've made friends with somebody and I'm friends with them because I met them on an overland tour. And you don't know the type of people that you're going to meet. It's not like you're going to a meeting and you know exactly the type of person you're going to meet. They're all going to come from different walks of life. And I think that makes such a big difference. Any comments on that?
It's the shared experiences, isn't it? You bond with people about shared experience, and on overlanding trips you're going to have all sorts of shared experiences. You're living in a very small confined space with a whole bunch of people that you don't know, from different socioeconomic backgrounds, from different walks of life, and I think those shared experiences create a bond that you rarely find in other situations. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
Yeah, so I think in terms of that shared experience, it's very true. So from like a Sunway's perspective, I mean, we're looking at travelers that are between 20 years old and 70 plus years old, mixed into a group of 12 people. They're internationals. So I mean, you're looking at like Australians mixed with German clients, mixed with Austrians, mixed with all over the world, essentially. And they're all now combined into this group of people. And so on the first day or two of a tour, it's kind of a little bit disjointed. No one kind of really knows each other. It's a little bit, iffy here and there. The guides are really trying to get the group to bond and kind of get them together. And I think like the Sunway guides have really learned. I mean, we've got a lot of guides that have been with us for 10 to 20 years. They're very experienced in managing group dynamics. And it's up to the guides over the first couple of days to really get the group to bond themselves as well. And it's through that shared experience and the bonding that the group will actually only start settling between 3 to 4 days into the tour. I know on the fam trips, like we generally run quite short fam trips, but on a Sunway tour, we generally running our shortest tour at the moment is 11 days. The longer ones are up to 22 days. So from that perspective, I mean, you just form these bonds, like they naturally form when you spend time in a small group like that with these people over time. Not everyone's going to love each other at the end of the day. Like that's kind of the way it is. I mean, not all personalities match up perfectly, but the groups do bond and they do get together. And we have countless examples of where there's still chat groups going from groups that have traveled with us before. The guides are still in contact with clients that have traveled with them multiple times. We get a lot of requests from clients saying, oh, can we please have this same guide again, which is not always possible due to scheduling. But we get that kind of request. And it just shows you that bond is really formed between the group and the guide, and obviously within the group itself. We've even had it on a couple of occasions where a group of people from across the world have now come and done a tour. The following year, they've come back, all of them on the same group, and they've wanted to do another tour as their same group on a different route, exploring a different country, things like that. So it really does form a bond. And there's very few other types of travel that actually allow that bond to form so strongly. From an FIT or fly-in perspective, you fly your spouse into a lodge, you don't really bother about anyone else that's around you, which is fine. And then you fly back out. So if you're self-driving, it's you and your family, you're self-driving. But on a group adventure, you really open yourself up to other people, and you really start forming that bond. And all the different perspectives that people have about the way they're experiencing something is kind of adds value to the group itself as well. I mean, you can imagine a 70-year-old or a 65-year-old client from Australia is going to view Sissus Flay in Namibia very differently to the way a 25-year-old from Germany would view it. And it's that kind of discussion between these people that really kind of start opening people's minds up to, oh, wow, that's a very interesting way of how you experienced it. And it's a really, really immersive way of traveling and understanding Southern Africa.
I also think because the experience are also everything that you experience is so awe-inspiring. You know, it's such a everywhere you go, it's like, ooh, look at this, ooh, look at that, oh wow. You know, there's a lot of wow moments on an overland tour, and sharing a wow moment with someone is always a nice thing rather than experiencing by yourself. Even me that likes doing stuff for myself, like, you know, being able to look back on a trip and say, oh, I was with this person or that person, and I remember, I can't remember her name now, but that girl that saw an elephant for the first time on our tour, and I'll never forget how excited she got. It was beautiful, and to me, that I've seen tons of elephants as an ex-guide, it was a beautiful moment. And again, seeing things through other people's eyes and through other people's perspectives, I think that's beautiful. I think it's beautiful, very unique.
Just touching on, sorry, Ingrid, you want to go?
No, go ahead.
Just touching on, you know, what John just said about the age thing, which we get very often. One of the questions that people will always ask, can you please tell us the ages of the people that are going to be on tour? And this is something that I've experienced personally, is that I feel, and I always say to people, yes, I'm happy to give you the age of the people if I have it that are on a tour, right? And I just like to also remind people that people connect over a common interest. You know, John, you said whether you're 70-year-old from Australia or 25-year-old from Germany, you both happen to look at the same tour and you found excitement in what you saw, right? And I went on a tour a couple of years ago, also a group tour, and I traveled extensively before, but just as an individual person. I never used to do group tours. I was like, no, I'm going to do this on my own. And then I did one of my first group tours. And yes, there was that, I think, anxiety that went along with it. But, you know, we had, I think the youngest person was 30 and the oldest person celebrated their 70th birthday on the tour. And, you know, that connection that took place between, it's almost as if the age, it falls away because you are all people that have a common interest in mind. So whether you are 70 or whether you are 25, yes, we maybe use, I don't know, guys, I don't know, maybe we use different cameras or we use different social media, or somebody doesn't use social media at all. However, you know, when you're sitting around that campfire at night and you looking up at the stars, everything else that is different about us falls away, and we are all in that moment. And for me, it's always the age thing. I don't know, Ingrid and Celia, you guys know, it comes up time and time and time again. And I think it's, I don't know, for me, it's not an important thing because it doesn't separate us. It's that interest that brings us together, irrespective of the age thing. Of course, also where we're from, but because the age thing becomes, you know, it's such a question that is often asked, you see it fall away. John, I saw it on our on the trip that I did. We were, you know, different ages. We were from different, I mean, I shared a room with, I forget her name, but she was from Barcelona and she was just lovely. And we had a guy on tour, I think he was, I don't know, he was also, I think, Johnny in his 50s or 60s, maybe a little bit older, but he was the most fun person. It wasn't like, oh, the oldest person. It's like, no, you know, the most fun person, or he just had us in stitches. And it was brilliant. There's a picture that I have in my mind, John. I think we were in Wangi where we were all in the pool, everybody. And we have this picture with us laughing and smiling and just trying to stay adrift just so that someone could take the picture, and all these elephants behind us. And that will never leave my mind. That was just amazing. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good example of like a shared experience, like it's shared with a group of people.
Yeah.
Traveling by yourself, like it is for some people, definitely, but I think sharing with other people, and like if you look at a tour, like a group or organized adventure like we do, then, from a solo traveler perspective, like because we're so welcoming to solo travelers and because it allows you to form bonds with other people, it really does open the door to everyone who really wants to travel with us. But creating those shared experiences and shared moments like that within the age, whatever age people are, is kind of what we do and what we do best.
I think John also just touched. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go for it.
No, I just wanted to agree with you on how welcoming you guys are for solo travelers. Like I'm always, when we get a solo male or female traveler, you don't charge the single supplement unless it's unless it's the client's choice, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. So yes. So thank you for doing that. It's amazing. It's great for people as well. And then to just elaborate a little bit, like I said, if you're not massively fond of the idea of doing a group tour, but you're looking at it, this is going to be better for my budget or whatever the case may be, book that single supplement. And then you've got a little bit more space for yourself in the evenings or whatever. You can decompress from your group. And there's almost a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a divide, but there is. So if you're someone that needs to switch off and you're concerned about doing a group experience, book the single supplement. Then you've got that shared experiences during the day and that space where you can decompress in the evenings. But yeah, it's a great product for solo travelers. Amazing.
Well, you also have to bear in mind, like a solo traveler, to give them that sense of safety. Two guides, like a group of people, you feel pretty comfortable, pretty safe traveling through Zimbabwe, like on these beaten tracks, like in the middle of nowhere, out in Yanga, and camping in the middle of Moremi or Chobe or these types of areas. Traveling that by yourself, kudos to you if you're willing to do that. That's fantastic. But for solo travelers, it just really opens the door to be able to get those experiences in as well, and feel safe, feel comfortable, like be looked after as well. It's not just the guys that are looking after the group looks after each other at the end of the day as well. Making sure everyone's safe, making sure everyone's healthy, having a good time. Everyone wants the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah. I also want to just touch on, Sunway has a very good relationship with their guides. You've got guides that you've been with for 10, 20 years, and you also run a number of amazing initiatives like for your guides and stuff. I also just want to, if you could just touch on that, because you obviously, all of the tours are led by 2 qualified and registered guides. Could you share some examples of how having a guide fully enriches your overall experience? Consultants, please feel free to jump in on this one as well, because obviously you've experienced it yourself. But could you just touch on that, how having those guides enriches the experience, and also maybe just mention the initiatives that you've run for your guides recently?
I think from a guiding perspective, and having a guide in Southern Africa, it really gives you a deeper insight into. Sure, you're gonna learn about like nature, the fauna and the flora, and these types of things. That you could technically use. There's a whole bunch of different books and maps and things like that as well. But the guides are going to be able to understand the dynamics of what you're looking at the end of the day. Whereas a book can't tell you exactly why lions are behaving in a specific way. And guides will be able to pick up those specific type of nuances as well. We've got a couple of guides that are very into birding. I know I drill birding into everyone that goes on tour with me as well. And I know birding is not really a thing for everyone, but once you spend 20 days with a guide that has a specific interest in something, you'll actually start like cottoning onto that interest and actually start learning a bit more about it, whether it be trees, whether it be birds, whether it be specific cultures and things like that as well. But then also the guides, they've been doing these trips for many, many years. They travel Southern Africa. Most of them are from Southern Africa. So they have a lot of cultural stories, or they know the histories of the countries incredibly well. So sitting around a campfire in the evening, Everyone's having a relaxing time. You'll probably find the guides are kind of chatting about, how they grew up in Zim, or how they grew up in Botswana or in South Africa. And this kind of knowledge is just being shared among these international travelers. And it's a two-way street. Like the comparisons come out, like, oh no, in Australia, this is how we grew up. And I think a lot of international travelers find it very, very interesting how like life in Africa is so different and so removed from kind of what they experience back home. And without a guide with you all the time and forming that bond, you never really get to that point. If you're just going on a game with a guide, like they tell you about the animals and things, and then you end the drive and it's done. But with a Sunway tour, you're going to go on a drive, the guides are going to explain everything, come back to camp, you start cooking dinner together, the guides are preparing amazing food. That's one of the big things that the guides pride themselves on. Obviously, on accommodated adventures, camping tours, we obviously provide a lot of the meals, and the guides do a lot of cooking. But I mean, I know of a guide that did high tea in the middle of the wilderness in
Wow.
and the clients loved it, like absolutely amazing. So it's those type of experiences at the end of the day that the guides add so much value to your trip. So instead of self-driving, instead of just flying in and just doing like a one night here, one night there, meet your guide for one day and disappear, you form that friendship. You really get to know a lot more in depth about the countries that you're actually visiting at the end of the day. So the guides really do add a lot of value. And the reason why Sunway allocate two registered field guides at the end of the day is mainly, everyone's going to have some gap in your knowledge. There's going to be somewhere, whether one guide is excellent at trees or one guy is better at cultural understandings, adding them together, at least then they've got the opportunity to fill in each other's gaps and be able to share that information as well. And also guides will bond differently with the group. I mean, you'll have possibly a stronger guide who becomes almost like the dad, the dominant person within the group itself as well. And the other guide who's acting more as a supporting role as well. But they're both there to support and look after the clients throughout the tour at the end of the day. Cook amazing meals, share stories, share about like nature, and also make sure that the clients get from A to B as safely as possible as well.
I remember.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. I have so much to say today. I also remember, because this just made me think of Pumi. We did our guide's name was Pumi, and he was absolutely incredible. Our other guide's name was John. He was just as incredible, very into birds. So Pumi, we did this game drive, and the next day we went back to the same spot where we saw a rhino the day before, and that morning we came there and the rhino had passed, so it was, the carcass was there, and there was two lions. It was very interesting, and Pumi was so passionate and so interested in what might have happened, because it was a very rare, odd occurrence. He rang the national parks. He went way above and beyond to figure out exactly what happened, and to relate that understanding to us as the group, and to pull us into that and the conservation efforts and blah, blah, blah. And it was just, if you'd done a self-drive, or if you'd gone, you'd never have had that enrichment of the experience. And so the Sunway guides are just phenomenal. Yeah, but that kind of thing, that's an example that came up.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, is like, for me personally, I think guides are like the key to a tour. They're so important, and it's sometimes a lot of things like overlooked, because like naturally clients would, before they book a tour, they would focus on like the places they're gonna see, the food they might gonna eat, or like how they're gonna travel and stuff. But once you get on tour, that relationship with the guide is like invaluable, like literally for everything. It's like the normal day-to-day of like, where's the bathrooms, where's this, but your guides is your connection to the country you travel in. It's, they are the ones that would tell you about things that you might not read on in a book or see. If you were there by yourself, you won't know, because they like saw your source of general things. Because like when I had Chips, I was his nickname, and Innocent, and they were both they grew up in Zimbabwe, in the Kariba area, and their knowledge, it's just not their knowledge, it's like their life, their general daily life that they can share with you that is, for the majority of tourists would be total foreign to anybody, so for them to have to share the knowledge of, their customs, like normal customs that they've got, and, marriage customs and relationship customs, and like the family setup, that type of thing that they can share with the traveler is just phenomenal. And it's so enriching to hear it, firsthand from a local person. I find that really invaluable. And for a guide to have guided for 20 years and still be good at their job, they need a medal. Like, honestly, they need a medal. Because having, if you be guiding for 20 years, it means you go to the places over and over and over again. And to keep that interesting for every group that they go through, to still be enthusiastic for every group, that is really a skill that you need.
Definitely reflects their passion, for sure. Their passion for, keeping their travelers happy. And, they may be sharing the same story, but again, every day in Africa is different. So they obviously are adapting to whatever they see and whatever they need to share. John, you also mentioned, yeah, sure.
Before you continue, there's just one more thing I want to say. With the guides, if you look at our reviews, I think so many times, yes, they will highlight our names, or they will, talk about the amazing time that they've had. But I think sometimes I'll also just try and read through some of the reviews. The comments are always our guide was the heartbeat of our trip. Our guide was the most amazing. I would love to come back and have the same. There's always a comment about the impression that the guide made on the person. And for people, I always say to travelers, go and read through our reviews, it always stands out. There's always a comment about a guide, which is remarkable. And yeah, they are really it's not just the knowledge. It's not just, it's that heartbeat. It's that, Andrew calls it the secret sauce. It's the secret sauce of every trip. They really are.
They really are the secret sauce to every trip. And you are definitely right. In 90%, basically, you can even say all of our reviews, they will tell you, and they'll mention their guide by name always. They won't just say, oh, my guide was great. They'll mention his name by his first name, and they will tell you how much they loved him, everything that he's done for them, etc., and or he or she has done for them. And they again create that bond with them. Again, shows you the bondage that you end up having on overland tours, which is amazing. John, I loved how you mentioned, they cook great food, and they assist you with everything that you need to do. As far as I understand it, the Sunway tours require limited participation from travelers. Could you just touch on that and what that actually means for people? Because obviously, when you think overlanding, people obviously feel that they're going to need to be picking up chairs and cutting up all of the things and helping here and helping there. What's the difference between, a fully participated tour versus the tour that you offer, which is a limited participation tour?
Yeah, so limited participation obviously applies to, in the Sunway perspective, applies to under canvas camping, and it applies to the accommodated adventures. The classic journeys on non-participation tours. So the other two grades, obviously limited participation. They differ slightly. You've got accommodated and you've got under canvas camping. So from an accommodated adventure point of view, one of the standard things that all clients, I think, need to understand from an expectation point of view is that the guides are not there they're there to support the clients, but the group as a whole are there meant to work together as a team. And this comes back to what we spoke about earlier as well in terms of bonding. Bonding and shared experience within the journey itself as well. So we've noticed that with participation, the groups tend to bond a lot quicker and start working together, and they really get immersed in the journey itself, or in the adventure itself. So clients could probably expect, generally in the standard, simplest form of it, we rotate washing up of dishes throughout the group, throughout the tour. So obviously on an accommodated adventure, most of the meals are provided by the guides. So the guides do all the cooking most of the time. And then after that, the clients on a rotational basis will be expected to wash dishes, pack away. But the interesting thing here is that clients tend to get a lot more involved. All right. So at the barest essence, like clients are carrying their bags, they're washing dishes, they're doing those types of things. But at the end of the day, you'll probably find that the group will actually start getting more involved, where they want to start chopping vegetables and things like that to try and keep the tour moving as smoothly as possible. But there's also a lot of conversation that goes in around cooking and things like that. So prepping veg, helping the guides, helping each other. It's really being like a whole unit working together at the end of the day. That's kind of what you're expecting on an accommodated. On an under canvas camping, it's a little bit more participatory. So the guides will kind of show you on the first day how to set your tent up. And then from there on out, it's kind of, it's your baby. So knocking up and putting down tents and setting your tent up. Obviously, it's normally a shared tent. So you have another client with you, whether it's your partner, whether you've been roomed with someone else. But the guides are still there to assist. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult to kind of clip it in or move this around. The guides will run around and kind of help everyone out. But that little bit of workforce within the adventure itself that actually bonds the group. It helps the tour to run on time. It helps the tour to run smoothly. But it really does make you feel like you're part of this adventure. You're part of this kind of movement and what we're doing at the end of the day as well. So it's a really, really important part of the adventure at the end of the day.
I really like how you've touched on, your accommodated adventures and then the under canvas camping. For somebody who may not know anything of what these terms mean in terms of overlanding, how would you describe it to them? And what type of person would you put on a accommodated tour versus a under canvas camping tour?
So it's pretty difficult to say at the end of the day as well. So in terms of what we sell at the moment, you're kind of seeing about 70% of all our sales are going into the accommodated space. So it's a very, very popular form of travel. And the camping, we're seeing it about 20%, 22% of all our sales are in the camping. So I kind of noticed over the last couple of years that camping is not really so much a budgetary concern at the end of the day anymore. I think in the past, it used to be kind of like, oh, it's the budget option. That's what I can afford. That's what I'm going to do. We're kind of seeing that the clients that are on the camping tours are actually choosing camping. Like, this is what I really want to do. I really want to spend 5 days doing a wilderness excursion through the Botswana wild parks, to really be in nature with no fences, in my little tent with like lions and elephants and everything wandering around inside Moremi while you're camping there. This is the type of experience that I think people are looking at. Whereas on accommodated adventures, people are looking for this kind of adventure, this kind of journey. But at the end of the day, they still want a little bit of comfort, So we've done a lot of work over the years in the accommodated sphere or space in terms of what accommodation we use, where we use it, what grade it is, and what quality it's like. So on the accommodated sphere, you're looking at like 2 to 3 star accommodation throughout the tour. In some cases, it's more kind of like on a 3-star level, I would say. And then there are obviously the exceptions where 2-star, but the 2 stars are generally located in like very remote areas where you don't really have much option anyway. So in terms of like an accommodation grade, you've got camping, which is in a tent, mixed in with a couple of nights of accommodated just to break up the trip. And then on accommodated, your whole trip is obviously accommodated in some form of accommodation. But we've also carefully selected all accommodation across the way. We've noticed that in the market, like the type of accommodation people are staying in is becoming very, very important to everyone. They want to be able to see what it is. They want to see what it is like, and all these type of things. I think there's a common misconception from the olden days, or the days gone past, where overlanding per se was kind of like roughing it through Africa. Whereas an accommodated adventure now is not the same thing anymore. You've got really nice accommodations throughout your tour. These are accommodations that are used on self-drives. These are accommodations that are used on other forms of travel itself as well. Another thing that we do is we possible on owner-run properties, so that we can have a really strong relationship. It's difficult relationship with a corporate entity. So having a relationship with a small lodge that's situated in the Caprivi Strip, that's run by the owners that live there, and they only have 9 rooms or 8 rooms. That type of setup is perfect for what we're looking at the end of the day. It's a double-sided thing at the end of the day. We've got, number one, you've got a private lodge, because our groups are 12 people. We generally book 9 rooms. That's our standard. So in many places as possible, we're going to use a small, intimate lodge where the crew can be by itself. Then you don't have a lot of outside influence wherever. Obviously, it's difficult in the city centers. There, it's kind of a little bit more free. But where we can, we try and use these kind of owner lodges. And then from a responsible travel impact, like, that's quite massive as well. Using all of these kind of small lodges along the way, in small rural areas where they're pulling on the local communities for staffing purposes and things like that. So clients actually kind of get to meet and see the local staff working in these lodges. They see that the funds that they're putting into the tour that are getting paid into these lodges is going directly to supporting local communities and local activity providers and things like that as well. So it's quite a long supply chain, but it's the way we kind of select everything and put it together as well at the end of the day. I don't know if that makes sense, or if I was rambling for too long, sorry.
No, you perfectly made a lot of sense, and thank you so much for sharing. It's really good to see how everything comes together, and Sunway obviously understands their market and what people are looking for, which obviously then helps us to sell better and understand our consumer a lot better, and also just ensure that people get the best option for themselves, instead of just going online and booking a tour and showing up and then experiencing it probably not in the best way, because you don't know what you've set yourself up for, basically. I love how you've touched on the sustainable measures that you guys put in place, and it's amazing to hear, because obviously sustainable tourism is a massive thing. We need to protect the communities that we are operating in, and that comes from a culture perspective as well as a life ecosystem perspective and a wildlife perspective. I also want to touch on the Matopos Rhino Trust initiative that you guys run. Could you tell me more about that?
Yeah, sure. So the Matopos Rhino Trust is obviously based in the Matopos National Park in Zimbabwe. It's one of the places that we use on 3 of our tours: the Zimbabwe-Botswana Game Tracker, the Zimbabwe-Botswana Game Trail, which is a camping tour, and the Botswana-Zimbabwe Ivory Route, which is a classic journey as well. So all 3 of those tours travel through this area. Over time, we've been using one of the properties in that area. The owner of that property is the chairperson of the Matopos Rhino Trust. And we've obviously built this relationship with him over the last 10 years that we've been using the property as well. So he approached us and wanted to give us a little bit more information on the Matopos Rhino Trust and kind of what they've achieved within the Matopos itself as well. So Matopos Rhino Trust works with Zim Parks inside the Matopos to protect and support the anti-poaching teams to protect the rhinos within the Matopos itself. And they've had dramatic success over the last 10 years. I think I can't remember the figures now off the top of my head, but they have been really, really successful in preventing poaching incidents in that area. But obviously in Africa in general, sometimes parks boards funds are sometimes like split a little bit thinly across all different budgets and all different parks across the country. So the Matopos Rhino Trust, obviously they fundraise to a degree to try and support the anti-poaching units within the park to make them more effective, to really kind of give them the equipment that they really need to do their jobs effectively, and at the end of the day protect the rhinos, which is the goal of what they want to do. So Sunway came on board with them beginning of last year. We kind of had a chat with them, kind of did a needs analysis of what they needed. Last year, the needs were kind of really high quality boots. So the guides, I mean, there's really rough terrain in the Matopos. It's loads of granite hills, thick bush that they're kind of working through the whole time. So a pair of quality boots is really, really important. They also came back with hydration packs and backpacks as well, just to be able to transport like water and the necessities that they need when they're out on patrol for a day. I won't get into the normal operations of how they do everything, but yeah. So what Sunway did is we came up with a plan to go in like a kind of two-phase plan. Firstly, we try to get boots together for them. So we successfully raised funds through our family, our Sunway family. I know African Overland were very gracious in your donation to the project itself as well. We linked up with Jim Green. They produce an AR8 boot, which is a high quality boot. It's just excellent for that type of terrain. It's got brilliant ankle protection and all that. They gave us a massive discount on the sale price. And then we leveraged funds from not only our agent base, but also our past clients that came through and also raised funds. So we raised, I think it was close to €2,000, about 40 to 50,000 rand for the boots themselves, and those were successfully shipped off in the middle of last year, or kind of the first quarter of last year as well. So that was very successful at the end. And the rangers in the Matopos are just so appreciative of this equipment. Like, they're all wearing their boots now. They're all comfortable. They really can kind of battle on the front lines, if you want to put it that way. And then phase two, obviously, we went about kind of trying to fundraise around the backpacks and the needs that they had there as well. So we sourced them locally from Johannesburg. They're made in Johannesburg itself as well. Just to note that Jim Green is also a locally manufactured boot as well in South Africa. And these were shipped up. And then we successfully raised the funds for the backpacks. The backpacks were shipped up. So now all of the rangers have a set of boots, a quality backpack, a hydration pack for water throughout the day as well. So slowly but surely, kind of like offering that support in terms of technical equipment itself as well. But then above that, like, all the clients that visit the Matopos National Park get this experience where they kind of go into the park on an open safari vehicle. They, because they're traveling with John or someone associated with the Matopos Rhino Trust, they connect with the scouts on the ground as well, who are following the rhino, who are checking in. And the vehicle will track down one of the scouts. The clients will get off on foot, and they'll be able to view these beautiful, majestic creatures that are still kind of roaming their natural habitat in the Matopos on foot, standing like 20 meters, 15 to 20 meters away from these rhinos, just watching them with the scout there, so it's just like a wonderful experience for the clients. At the end of the day, they get a full briefing kind of on what the Matopos Rhino Trust is, the history of the Matopos itself as well from a cultural perspective. And clients then also get the opportunity to donate directly at the Matopos Trust on those specific tours. And those funds that are donated there go to the operational costs, which is fuel, food, things like that the Ranger Scouts need as well. And we have a couple of these types of projects. They're all on our website for anyone that's interested as well. We do a similar project in the Okavango where we fund fiberglass canoes. So it's trying to expand our impact as much as possible, but also make it accessible for clients to really understand how their travel impacts communities and impacts these type of projects directly on these kinds of tours.
I love that, and it's just so good to see how much of effort you guys put into each and every initiative that you have put out, whether it's been through the rangers and the rhinos and stuff like that. You've always put in so much of effort into it, and it's a continuous effort. Sustainable tourism is a continuous effort that we all need to try and stand to. And people need to understand that the places that we visit, lots of them are very remote. Lots of them are, they depend on tourism more than anything else to bring in money so that they are, well looked after. And not many people understand that aspect up until you actually come and see it for yourself. And I think that really brings it together in the form of what I like to call overland journeys. I don't like to call, the tours that we do and the itineraries that we put out as a tour. I like to call them journeys because you are on a journey. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? This was one of my questions that I put down, just about how people feel about the actual word journey as a whole when it comes to overlanding.
I've got so much running through my mind now because when John talked about the Rhino Trust is because we did the whole Rhino walk and meet the trackers and stuff, and it's so interesting and it's so eye-opening, is because I know, John, like earlier last year when you were talking about getting the boots for the trackers, so, and it's such a thing that you don't think about, it's sort of like it's such a daily thing, but like just to get them proper boots so they can do their job in the bush is, it makes the biggest of difference. And then meeting actually the guides and John, that is the head of the Rhino Trust, his knowledge is phenomenal. To hear the stories and to hear the history and the work that they do is incredible. It's really, for me, that was the highlight of the whole tour, and I think it's for a lot of people. Because first of all, the accommodation there is so nice. It's a small, intimate little lodge, and you feel like like in terms of the group as well, you bond better with the group. And then going out on the Rhino track is again a bonding experience, because for a lot of people, they would never imagine walking in the bush and then all of a sudden here in front of you is a rhino, like literally a few feet almost away. And just the experience of that is like incredible. But saying that, it wouldn't be possible for us to see it in a sense of a sustainable way if it wasn't for the Rhino Trust and the trackers, and to make their life easier, because it's a really hard job. They live in the bush for days, and they need to get by. So that water packs is like seriously important. But in general, also when you talk about the journey, for me, and what I also hope for my clients, when they go on a tour, is that they would embrace the journey for themselves, that they would, it's not just expecting things to be sort of handed to them, like sort of feeding them with whatever is along the way, but that they would take initiative to act in, like, to connect with the local, or to ask questions if they're interested, or from their side to really reach out to, because like John said, you stay at small lodges that's run by locals, that is owner run. And that's the beauty of it, because you can literally, the owner of the lodge is there and you can ask them, any kind of questions about the area, the animals, the cultures. And they have, like, normally, like, they would be there for like 20 years or so, and they would know, and that is invaluable for like a traveler that maybe their first time to Africa. To have that first-hand knowledge is makes the difference for sure.
I totally agree with Ingrid. It's so valuable to have people that has lived in an area for a long and extended period of time. They just know more, and they're going to share that with passion and with love. They're there for a reason. But I also wanted to mention about the journey. It's not, yes, it's a journey, and yes, it's a physical journey, but it's also an emotional journey. I mean, I want to, if it's okay, I'm just going to read you. One of my travelers just returned, and I just want to read. It's one sentence that he sent me after he came back, and he says, just to let you know, I am back, more wise, more rich, more respectful, and more happy. And I just think it's just so beautiful, isn't it? And that's what we wish for everybody. Yeah, just that's the journey. Yeah.
And Celia, I think a lot of people, with the comments and that they send to us with their reviews, will say it's been a life-changing journey. And you will hear that time and time and time again with people's feedback after they've been on an overland trip. Because I think, again, going back to that expectation, I think people think it's going to be a certain way, and then it really does. It takes them on that emotional journey through the people that they meet as they travel, and I often say to people, and it's not just the people at the accommodations or your guides, but it's if you're stopping along the way and the school kids are coming out of school and they're waving at you as you're going by, or you stopping at a gas station or a rest stop or whatever, and you have a chat there to guys, where are you from? And people talk about the friendliness of the African people. And I think, where our clients come from, and I know I'm generalizing, but I feel that there's a disconnect in that human interaction that they then come and find when they come to Africa and when they go on the journey. And I think that is what stays with them. And that is why we get the kind of feedback that you just read about, because it impacts people in such a dramatic way. And for that reason, it's not a tour. I should probably get rid of the word tour. It's not a tour because it is a journey. It's an emotional journey. It's it's something very special. And I think everybody in their lifetime should experience it.
Totally agree.
I think you've all summed it up really well. And I thank you all for your input, for your time today. John, is there anything that you would like to share? Any comments you'd like to give out to, people who want to take on this journey, as we've called it, and just inspire them to take the leap?
Yeah, I think we've covered so much today in terms of like what it's really like and kind of what you can look for in these types of tours. But if you're looking to experience Africa and really experience Africa, I mean, like, be immersed in nature and be immersed in the cultures of Africa and experience the vastness of Africa. Like, I don't use the word overland tours. We tend to use small group wildlife adventures. Another term that they used in the industry is organized adventures, because pretty much your adventure is organized from the day you get there till the end, for 21 days or 14 days or forever, however long you are with us, your day is organized for you. All you have to do is come, immerse yourself in the adventure, be present in the moment, and really kind of soak up everything that you see around you. When you're driving on a long travel day, maybe you've got a 4 or 5 hour drive, look out the window. The landscape changes in Africa every couple of 100 kilometers. You're going to see something new. You're going to see a small person that's waving at you in the middle of nowhere, and just kind of like wonder, how did I get there? It's these type of small experiences along the way that you don't always get on different types of adventures. But also, like I said earlier, you're going to get that connection with the group, and that shared experience is going to add to your experience at the end of the day, of everything that you see. So yeah, please come to Southern Africa, join a group adventure, an organized adventure, an overland tour, overland journey, whatever you want to call it. But come and immerse yourself with us, and come and learn, and come and meet the people at the end of the day. See the wildlife, see the iconic destinations, and leave with friends, leave with memories that you can keep with you for the rest of your life.
John, and also just I want to add, thank you to Sunway. I love working with you guys. I find that it's the easiest. I don't know. It's easy. Sometimes Andrew always says, I don't want you guys working late at night, but sometimes you have to. And you're looking and you're like, oh, does this tour have availability? It's easy to find the availability. You don't have to wait until the next day. And I love working with your team. They are so helpful and kind, and we laugh, and we how was your weekend? And happy birthday. And there's a real personal joy in working with Sunway, and you guys really make it easy for us. I love selling Sunway tours.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. I just have one comment also from Michelle, who is also one of our consultants, who said she also loves working with Sunway. So again, thank you, John, for the amazing work that you guys are doing, not only to provide us with amazing tours, journeys, and also, the initiatives that you are taking in terms of sustainable tourism and just everything that you guys do. It's amazing to show what partnerships look like and why people like African Overland Tours work with people like Sunway Safaris. I hope everybody's enjoyed this webinar as much as I have. Thank you so much for taking the time today, and on to the next time. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.